Where is Bob Gregg? Okay. Breathe. Take in the room. Okay. Kerry and I drove past this building last May, and she told me that her memorial would be here. She actually pointed to this window, and she said, "I hope it's a beautiful day, and I hope you can see the Golden Gate Bridge." And then she looked across the road, and she said, "Look at that dog's tail." For me, this exchange embodies the duality of Kerry. Kerry kept magazines because they were too precious to recycle, but she creased the pages of new cookbooks with abandon. She stuck broken china in her garden because it was too pretty to throw away. She appreciated original oil paintings and pictures from expired calendars. She displayed books facing out, like in a bookstore, and she taped photographs and inspirational sayings and letters into the inside of her cabinets like a hoarder. During Kerry's Goldman days, she insisted on cooking meals from scratch, setting a beautiful table, and these are her words, dressing for dinner with Creighton. But she once told me that she didn't make any recipe with more than 5 ingredients. Kerry was an aggressive relaxer, as anyone who ever traveled with her can attest. She was a voracious reader. She was trying to catch up to Bill's record of 214 books per year. She was equally happy perusing the Wall Street Journal as she was reading a Danielle Steele novel. Or travel magazines plotting a new adventure, or home magazines planning how she'd recover the chairs she had just recovered, but only after the fabric had worn out and she'd gotten her money's worth. Kerry was frugal. Even when she was working crazy hours, she felt badly about getting a housekeeper because she thought it made her seem spoiled. She poured her unfinished wine back into the bottle. She scooped ice cream back into the container if she didn't finish it. She wrapped up extra diapers that Will or Bibi had outgrown and brought them as gifts to baby showers. Before she gave up Diet Coke, she used to keep cases of it in the trunk of her car so she didn't have to buy a single can for a higher price if she was away from her home. But her philanthropy was even more outsized than her frugality. Right after her spinal surgery, Creighton and I were in the ICU with her, and we were whispering about his 25th reunion at Exeter and the fundraising record that he and his class agent set. Kerry started mumbling, and we were worried. But what she said was, "We're gonna have to pull a rabbit out of our hats for our 25th. Then she named a big fish in our class who had never given money. He'll remain nameless. Don't worry, he's not here. And she joked that I should email him from her bedside with a big ask. She also supported her friends, small businesses, and new ventures. Her plug usually started with, "You would love her." Sarah's landscape business, Ria's interior design, Missy's real estate, Vicky's housekeeping, Ellen's clothing, my stationery. Her last Instagram post featured Valerie's purses. This generosity continued on a personal level as well. After I got married, Kerry was over at my house, and she went into the bathroom, and she was horrified that we were using beach towels inside. Within a week, a box the size of a smart car arrived at our house, and it was filled with Egyptian cotton bath towels. She also asked me when we were on the phone one time why I was breathing so heavily, and I said that I was cleaning my house. I think I actually probably complained about it. And for my next birthday, she gifted me with 2 visits from a housekeeper. When I had my first child, Kerry was the first visitor. She brought homemade cookies, hilariously packaged in an old formula tin that was empty, but not clean. and a few stained onesies, which she said didn't matter because the baby was going to spit upon them anyway. She also told me not to try on any of my regular clothes until 6 weeks postpartum. I think the ladies in the audience get that this is a setup for a joke, because I put on my, not even my skinny jeans, I put on my regular jeans 6 weeks later, and they were like this. Like, there was no way they were closing. Another way that Kerry showed her affection was with her honesty. She could be painfully direct. She told an acquaintance who asked for resume advice that her resume was good, but her gray roots would be distracting in interviews. She told Rhea, "I feel so much better when I'm with you because you can't remember anything either. But at least I have cancer to blame." Stuckey doesn't like this, but she famously told Sarah that she could get more done in an hour than Sarah could in a week. I'm so sorry, but it might be true. She told me that I would look better if I did sit-ups because then my stomach wouldn't stick out. And when I started using natural deodorant, she also told me that I smelled. She followed all of these proclamations with a hug and said, "Aw, we love you anyway." Which made you feel weird, like all the friends had been talking about it and you didn't know. But she expected her friends to be direct with her, even if what they had to say was critical. Kerry described her mistakes with extravagant adjectives. There was the coconut cake that Kerry baked upon hearing the cost of having her dad's favorite cake shipped from Charleston. Although the taste was delicious, I think, Bill is nodding, the entire cake collapsed in on itself, which caused Kerry to dub its appearance spectacular. Or when Kerry went running after Will at the park when he was little, looking at him in the distance so she didn't see a horizontal bar in the foreground, which would break her nose and give her 2 black eyes. She called this incident magnificent. She was audacious and spicy, as Erica called her, but also proper and well-mannered. I changed out of high heels at her wedding reception and put on Dansko clogs. The dresses were long, so you couldn't really tell. But when I walked over to Kerry and lifted up my skirt and showed her, she pursed her lips, put her finger over her mouth, did one of her little head shakes, and said disapprovingly, "You're very naughty." Jean said that if Kerry's face didn't look just like Bill's, they wouldn't have been sure she was theirs, because she wasn't like anyone else in the family. I would venture to say that she wasn't like anyone else, period. I don't remember the moment I met Kerry at Exeter. I just remember her always being in my life. I also remember her legendary green dress. Most of the other girls were dressing like extras on the set of Little House on the Prairie in Laura Ashley jumpers. It actually occurred to me that this is sort of a black version of that, but at that. But Kerry did not emulate the prep school look. She did her own thing. The news would literally ripple across campus. "She's wearing the green dress." Had we been in high school during this time, the green dress would have had its own Instagram handle. That dress and Kerry intimidated some people. But now I can see that it was Kerry's confidence and her gift of being herself wherever she went that was unusual. She speed walked around campus with cute flats instead of practical shoes, even in the New Hampshire weather. And she went from activity to activity and without anchoring herself to one group. My high school roommate said that Kerry was sexy before anyone even knew what it was. Even at that age, Kerry had swagger. Finis Origine Pendit. Our Exeter motto took on extra meaning as Kerry battled cancer the second time. The end depends upon the beginning. I want to thank you, Jean and Bill, for making Kerry. And I want to thank you, Peter, for helping shape her. Creighton, I want to thank you for loving Kerry, even when it was hard. And Bibi and Will, I want to thank you guys for being a piece of Kerry that we can still have. I will keep her with me for the rest of my trips around the sun.
Thoughts on an unusually successful human. Out of an unavoidable tragedy, you created transcendental beauty. As your body waned, your spirit shone brighter and brighter. You became a sun around which many lives and magic orbited. Being part of this evolution will be one of the deepest and most meaningful experiences of my life. But to get to the end does depend on the beginning. The first memory I have of us is a moment in the fall of '88 when our parents closed the door to room 207 Hoyt Hall. Our eyes locked, and we sat there smiling at each other, reveling in the fact that not only might we be able to rely on each other, but also have fun, and we did. From navigating the social structure, where the Creighton Reeds were at the top, to the late night Rice Krispie fights, where that stuff didn't matter, to lying in our twin beds, trying to figure out if we won Vietnam, and what would make that victory or loss clearer. It was during that time that I began to see how strong the force was with you, and just what made you different from the pack. 1, your bewildering superpower of efficiency. 2, your will, sometimes extreme, to experience all of it. And 3, your drive to achieve well-rounded perfection. The magic of this elixir clicked for me one day. Returning to our room, I saw a pencil sketch you were drawing, not even for a class. It looked like it was out of vogue. You said, "This is just a dress I want to wear." Looking at you with your bob and your bright red lipstick and your fitted cashmere sweater, I thought, you sing like a bird. You actually got straight A's in our first trimester. Nobody does that. You're already volunteering outside the school, and you could be hired by a fashion house at 14. This sort of thing went on for 29 more years. We've witnessed you give time and raise millions to leaving Earth a cleaner, more sustainable place for your children, become an Exeter trustee, a TNC board member, a crusader of animals, including 2 more boa constrictors in San Francisco, and lizards pleading with you for help on the balcony. To those not born on third base, your loved ones ad infinitum. So there was this life of watching you shine, but also relying on each other through our struggles. And this brings me to the end. When your cancer came back aggressively and your struggle was more intense than most humans would stand, you actually started to glow in the light of your magnus opus, which, by the way, was not the novel you wrote on your iPhone last year. You knew you needed to experience it all, achieve well-rounded perfection, and do it efficiently. It was finally your ability to fully surrender to the forces that be, to fully open up your big, beautiful heart and be vulnerable. You cracked the shell of your continual and powerful perfection, and you transformed from a dwarf into a supernova. In this great duality that Susie showed, in your weakness, you found your greatest strength. My metaphor for this final transformation could be the hike you led me on less than a year ago with 9 inches of new titanium in your spine and fresh off chemo. From the sea-level town of Amalfi up the winding paths and ancient stone stairs built into the hillside to the highest point of the Amalfi Coast, Ravello, where we swear we saw Roman gods in the sun's rays. Or your favorite 1-mile hike you took with your family to Point Lobos just 1 week before passing. Or the way you hauled your glamorous scarf-clad self to the stage at the Sweetwater and sang with Pete and the band after an unexpected 11 hours at the hospital. Then you raised money there for artists and musicians. In your transcendence, you gave a great gift, perhaps your greatest one. In your dying, Kerry, you taught us much about living. In the magic of this, your home became Grand Kerry Station. Daily deliveries of heirloom, recycled furs from the reeds, bills, coffee table books, and spy novels, jeans, cashmere PJs, and marinated flank steaks, soul-bearing letters, endless bursts of endless love from visitors, and perhaps most importantly, Creighton's love and care. The two of you at the end functioned as a unit so in sync, I'm not sure I'll ever see 2 people that tender with each other again. Thank you. Now you are gone, but I believe your sun will continue to burn brightly and hold us in orbit, because in typical overachieving Kerry fashion, you left a fascinating and productive legacy for all of us. But in particular, I know this to have been of utmost importance to you, for Will and Bibi. Young Jedi reads, I don't know what you will remember from this day, but what I hope you carry with you, and I think time will reveal to you as you continue to grow up, are 3 things for which I am in awe and grateful. The first is a global network of friends. There are people everywhere on this planet that loved your mom, and by extension, will care for you. Reach out to it. It's powerful. 2, enjoying and arousing in others her great love of Earth. I believe her respect and love of its magical, interdependent web is why we're not in a church right now, but in a San Francisco corridor where quail and mountain lions have trails too. She hoped we'd all commune with it and protect it. And 3, and this one's harder to understand, I think, for everybody, is that in your weakness may lay your greatest strengths. Your mom proved that. From the moment we locked eyes at 14, to these last years, she showed me we are all meant to evolve. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. In closing, I'd like to share something Kerry told me a few months ago. She wrote her own mantra decades ago and said it daily. Like the mountains, I am strong. Like the redwoods, I can stand the test of time. Like the river, I will go with the flow. Everything I need is inside of me. I am exactly where I'm meant to be. Everyone I need is beside me. Thank you, everyone here, for the gifts you gave Kerry and for the gifts you were open to receiving from her. Well, really, lastly, I was the first one that knew when the green dress was coming out every time.